Yes.
Is it visible now?
Yeah, it's visible. You can make it full
Yeah.
screen. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Mile and the SISGS faculties and friends. And it's glad to meet Chetan as well as Professor Srinivasan through this webinar. The point of reference for me is actually not to provide the nitty-gritties of the education policy, the proposed education policy by the government. But my intention is to actually reflect about the complexities because it has been a policy for the last only less than a week or two, and we as a scholars of public policy, we need to deconstruct these complexities. So sometimes I may be too critical, but it's purely a liberal framework without any ideological position. I quickly look at the final document, whatever we got from the government, because I'm not clear whether it is a 484 pages, the document which is final, or the 60 page, we do not know. But nevertheless, there are broad set of proposals where you are going to have a 4-year bachelor's program like that of your FIUP, what we have done some years back in Delhi University, and you are going to have a local where on the one hand we will be internationalizing our higher education system, on the other hand we will also addressing to the local, and you have the what Professor Srinivasan already rightly mentioned about the structure from 5+3 plus 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, and the new structures, and the linguistic policy will be triangular, etc. It's an endless baggage of proposals which we are left with, and also you are going to have a new structures based on this. I'm not going to get into these nitty-gritties. My intention is to understand or think loudly in terms of the systemic complexities. One is there are a lot of trivialities because they are very important for us. What are those trivialities which are actually none of the committee members are known in the field of education policy studies. Yes, Professor Kasturi Rangan is an eminent scientist, but he is not an educationist actually. I'm sorry for this, but most of the committee members, if I look at their profile, they are not at all having any education policy expertise. So, but India, unfortunately, we have a lot of great experts like Professor Krishna Kumar, Professor Tilak, Professor Govinda. I can give you thousands of names actually, wonderful people, but they are not in the committee. I do not know the reason. But let us keep this as a trivial issue. It's not a big issue at this stage. Second is, I really do not know what has been the policy allies decision for the last 19 months. First, the draft has been submitted in 2018, and it has been now formalized on 29th July 2020. So we do not know what they were doing for the last 19 months, which is almost two years. So these trivialities are all actually telling us a broader figure where what has been there from DNEP to NEP, because there was a draft which has been there on the table with the minister, and now we got a NEP. Is it just a removal of the D? That's what I'm trying to understand. As Chetan rightly mentioned, there are certain things they have been overlooking in the final policy, and there were certain things which were there in the draft. I do not know which one to follow, because now we have a 60-page document and we have a draft 484 document. Some people are saying that the 484 is just a reference point, 60 pages is going to be the document, so there is no clarity. So we do not know whether it is a summary or this is the full figure. Second important position is the draft was initially saying that the explicit position of the draft was to close down all the commercially oriented private institutions. Unfortunately, that is missing now. I said unfortunate with the clear conscious position where education in this country has been a non-commercial activity, although we say, but we know the reality. But the moment when I saw the draft, when it says that all the commercial, we will close down all the commercial oriented private institution, I was indeed happy that education is going to be a noble field where the commercial profit sector will be eliminated. But unfortunately, the 60-page document is not at all saying anything about it at all. Also, Chetan has rightly mentioned there is a drastic departure from what has been said in terms of the education financing from the draft and the summary. We all know. So let me go ahead with the next point. The next important point is, in my opinion, any policy, even if it is like a well-written policy like the present one, it is indeed a very, very well-written document, can be a successful document based on the bureaucracy or the education bureaucracy, how it actually implements or how it actually engages with it. We have a number of policy documents. There is no doubt about it. In my opinion, India is the world's capital of policy documents, where we have all the great scholarship. You have Learning Without Burden by Professor Yash Paul, wonderful document, but we never follow any of the policies as strictly as one imagined to be. So bureaucracy has been an unimpressive one. So if you look at the UGC, for example, in terms of the same, the exit entry, what you are proposing now, consistently UGC has been failing in terms of its mandate. The initial during the UPA government, when FIUP was introduced by Shashi Tharoor as a Minister of Human Resource Development, UGC chairman was Professor Venkataraman. Well and good, everybody supported FIUP, and it was we began one batch. They enrolled, and the things were going smooth. Immediately, the government fell down, and you got an NDA 1. So, with a fraction of a second, when Mrs. Smriti Irani became the Minister for Human Resource Development, the same UGC chairperson, Ved Prakash, agreed to eliminate the FIUP without any agony, actually. Then now, the same UGC is actually saying that, yes, we are going to reintroduce FIUP. These kind of jocular somersaults between the changes and the moods of the ministers in the last 7 years is not at all good. In my opinion, even if it is UGC as an important body, it should be really, really sensitive to the systemic complexities. Second important point is hypocritical policy of education being not profit. On the one hand, the draft document said that education cannot be profit. And the final document is not at all talking about it. It's in fact silent. On the other hand, if you look at the public discourses on higher education, or in particular, or any sort of education in general, we always say that education cannot be profit. But it's a very hypocritical stand if you look at the real life nuances, actually. Every one of us are all conveniently sending our children to private schools for obvious reasons of quality. So we need to have some kind of a clarity on this, actually. Which in my opinion is an additional complexity which we need to unpack. Third is 11th minute you dropped Mandarin from the language list. Obviously, it's a political decision. We cannot comment about it. But as a scholar who is looking at the public policy, I don't think it's a very smart move, because we know that Chinese governance structures are very cryptic, and we cannot be sensationalize the education policy discourse and remove Mandarin. It will have a futuristic, far-reaching implications of our strategic ability to understand China. In my opinion, China is more problematic to the Indian position in the world than Pakistan or any other countries. So removal of Mandarin in the 11th minute may be winning votes in the next general election, but it may not be a strategic move for the sustainable discourse creation. The last important point is, what we are witnessing is that, on the one hand, you are talking about alternative models of education from 3 to 18, but there's no mention of RTE, right to education. It's a constitutional right, actually. Not a single domain. I'm sure Professor Srinivasan will agree. They have not at all discussed anything about RTE. That's another concern which we need to understand. Because on the one hand, when you are saying that in school education, we are going to universalize everything by 2030, this is in fact contradicting the very idea of RTE, actually. Because according to RTE, education is a fundamental right. Then why the government needs time to implement it actually? So if you read the document back and forth, you understand the vacuum actually. Because it's all prepared, in my opinion, it's all not prepared by academics actually. It's all prepared by consultancies and the private captains. So what they have done smartly is that they know that how we read the document. So they smartly address all the potential issues and trying to outsmart everyone. So as I always say, there is a card actually, state, market, and civil society. What we are witnessing in this document is a combination of market and state. And this policy document is it's a combination of market and state, where it is trying to outsmart the civil society, which we need to be very careful. We need to read the document and very carefully understand the complexities and understand the nuances and understand the far-reaching implications for the country. That is very important for our nationalism or our idea of nationalism. Second important point is, on the one hand, you are saying that yes, Anganwadi say like 18 years that we are going to have this model. How feasible it is to leave the 3-year-old children where Anganwadi workers are not professional educators? You are going to bridge the ECCE into school education, but do you think that these Anganwadi workers are all professional? I doubt. As far as my knowledge goes, all very pathetic institutions which are there in the bottom lines of the Ministry of Women and Child Welfare. So even it will have a ministerial conflict as well, because Anganwadi is not part of MHRD or a Ministry of Education for that matter. It comes under some other ministry. So we need to have educators since beginning. Do they have the expertise? I'm not sure about it. And the third important point is, are we going to legalize the dropouts through the multiple entry and exit formula? Because you are saying that anyone can go out and anyone can come out because we are going to address the dropout. That is fine. But are we going to, if you are making it as a policy, you will legalize the dropout. That will be having a far-reaching negative implications on the system than the existing complexities. So this is another concern for me. There are a lot of silences in the document which I want to mention. Yes, Professor Srinivasan rightly mentioned, secularism has been missing actually. It's a constitutional value, whether you like it or not. For us, Constitution is the Holy Bible. So am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sorry. So it's a constitutional ideal. So secularism, unfortunately, is silent. That is one concern. Second is, there is no reference for social justice. It is again conspicuously silent on the idea of reservation. Whether you like it or not, based on your ideological blindness, these are all the ideals on which we have built this country so far. So by conspicuously silent on these aspects, for example, caste, for example, there is no discussion on caste other than a casual referencing on scheduled caste. Nothing. India cannot be understood without mentioning about caste and religion. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality of this country. So the constitutional ideal on the fundamental rights are obviously absent. So these are all, as I said earlier, even RT has not been mentioned. These are all very problematic silences, which I consider as an important point. I don't want to repeat this position because this has been already covered by Professor Srinivasan in terms of the centralization, because education is not a state central list, it is a concurrent list. How come it became a national policy as it neither consulted the states nor even the parliament so far? Nobody knows. And also the kind of prescriptions, whatever you are getting, one size fits for all prescription. There is no autonomy for the state government. If you look at the proposed policy ideals, Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog, National Assessment Center, National Research Foundation, NHERC, National Professional Standard, these are all national bodies. They are indirectly concerned for the federal form of this governance actually. This will have a far-reaching implications on the very idea of Indian nationalism. Markers of market, for example. Most of the lexicons, whatever you are looking at it, if you read the document very carefully, they are all pro-capital in its nature. Corporate lexicons, board of governors for the colleges, or the private sector may be eligible for public funding as NEP is treating public and private at par. Are you going to fund the private at the cost of public money? We do not know. I know some of the politicians said that we know from what to think, we are heading towards the how to think. Yes, but my concern is, but thinking for whom shall be the concern? Because the thinking in this document, in my opinion, it is actually having an idea of that education is for skilling to make you and me a worker. But education's ideals cannot be reduced in terms of skilling. It is for broader citizenship making actually. So how are we going to address this is a million-dollar question. The Professor Pratap Bhanumeda's argument, which I really enjoy, where he said that last week he wrote in Indian Express that fears of the document come from the context rather than the text. So since it is self-explanatory, I'll just skip it. Because if you look at the context, what we are witnessing in this country is really, really unimpressive actually. You are giving a IOE status to an institution which is not at all existing. No faculty, no infrastructure. It exists only in paper. But you gave a IOE status. On the other hand, IIT Madras was not getting IOE status in the same year. You have 130,000 ghost teachers are there, even in higher education. But you are saying that Aadhaar is actually creating a greater digital India. This is actually self-contradicting, actually. So we need to unpack all these complexities in terms of political economy. Before we look at the digital narrative in terms of the pandemic, at least, it's really, really dangerous. According to World Bank figures, nearly 200 million Indians still lack electricity, access to electricity. I'm not talking about internet, because even the very idea of internet will be available based on the electricity. Only 13% of the households are having laptops and desktops. This is the opinion from Madhav Chauhan from Pratham. Less than 40% of the Indians are only having the access to internet, and 28% of the adults of the countries are having the smartphone. These are all the data which we are getting from the different government documents in the public discourses. How are you going to, you can create a grand narrative, write a nice policy and get away with it. But if you want to look at the complexities, what is there in the country, until unless these complexities are being addressed, I think we will be fooling ourselves. So my take home message this is my last slide and I'll just take it only 1 minute. The take home message from my concern in terms of these complexities, complexity is inherent. We need to deconstruct the dysfunctional factors. This includes system in terms of curriculum, pedagogy, resources, funding, teacher training. You name any systemic factors. It includes structure, political economy, governance, agency, because in the end, we need to create a greater critical thinking individuals, not just workers. And we cannot just borrow policy framework from outside and just parachute it into a country of